Ladies and gentlemen, here we are again. We meet in our ninth lecture in children's literature. Okay, last lecture, was about the first story for children that is called Little Red Riding Hood. Okay, and we had enough discussion about that wonderful story. Today we continue with other stories and new ones. In this lecture we'll discuss three stories as you see here. The first one is the Sleeping Beauty. Second is Snowdrop and Seven Little Dwarfs. Third is the Goose Girl. Okay, please remember, for each story we have to discuss, even not covered in the lecture. You have to remember that it's required from you to discuss the theme in each story and to find out examples of figures of speech, because figures of speech is something that you learned in other literature courses. So if there is any example of any figure of speech, you have to know it and then know what it means and to explain it. Okay, I mean figures of speech like similes, metaphors, personification, metonymy, anatomopeia, then you have irony, and things like these. Okay, these literary terms or figures of speech you are supposed to know from other courses. Besides, they are, I think they are mentioned in the last lecture for you in a glossary. In a glossary added to, I think, the last lecture. If not, you can find it yourselves by referring to any literature textbook or reference. Okay, this is one thing. So the theme, the figures of speech, and then we have also to, when we read a story, we have to remember the most important details. First of all, you have to have a full idea, a complete idea about the course of the story, the details of the story. I mean the plot of the story, how it starts, and then how the plot develops, then how it ends. So we need to know about specific details in each story. And then also we need to know about the characters in each story. Okay, the protagonist, the antagonist, I mean the hero or heroine, and the anti-hero or anti-heroine. Okay, characters also something that you have to put in mind when you read a story. Another thing we have to keep in mind while studying or while reading a story is also to pay attention to the setting of the stories, the time and place of the stories that you read, where the actions take place and when. And for in most of these stories you'll find the setting as something general, which is one of the characteristics of stories written for children. But still you have to know it. And then even when you talk about characters, you also talk about characters that are not named. Okay, most probably you find most of the characters in the stories written for children are without names, just to make them general and international. Okay, and fit any culture, any place, any time. Okay, any society. Then also you have to keep in mind when reading a story to look for and to find how the story fits with the characteristic of stories written for children. Okay, looking for the elements of or the characteristics or the elements that make a story for children. because you'll find, you know, the stories for children all يعني have many elements in common. Okay, many elements in common. Okay, as I've just said, you know, they do not have a specific time and place. They start, you know, once upon a time. Okay, you know, they end up, you know, happily, you know, with, you know, the little, you know, overcomes or victory. The little or the small overcomes, or, you know, has victory over the big, or the good, you know, having victory over the evil, and so on. So on we go. Okay, this is just an introduction. Then here we start with the first famous story, The Sleeping Beauty. Okay, اللي بالعربي معروفة دائما بنقولها اللي الأميرة النائمة. Okay, is a very famous, popular story for children, and I think most of you, if not all, have an idea or a background about, you know, this story. As you see, once upon a time, this is one of the characteristics of stories for children. Once upon a time, there isn't a specific time يعني in stories for children, most probably. So we talk about, you know, a queen and a king. So also here, no name, just a king, a queen. So a king and a queen, who, I mean, the queen gave birth to a lovely, beautiful baby, and they, you know, have, you know, they you know, just they gave a party for that, you know, baby, and they invited all fairies in the kingdom, but just unluckily the king, you know, forgot to invite one of these fairies, one of these witches, and, you know, for that she was very angry, and she when she was told, you know, يعني when it was her turn to wish to give the baby a good wish, she was so evil and bad, and she said, no, when the baby is 16, she will touch a spindle, يعني هو sort of a spinning rod, and die. So she wished that she died. So on the story goes, and, you know, the king tried to ask the help of the other fairies over, you know, to get over this bad, evil wish from that evil, you know, fairy. But this, the fairies said, sorry, we can't help you, but all what we can, you know, do is just to prevent her death, but, you know, and put her on sleep, and she wakes up, you know, after a long sleep, after 100 years. And this, when the daughter, you know, became 16, she was, you know, out, somewhere out in the wandering in the woods, and she saw a lady with a spindle, with a spinning rod, and she, you know, played with that spinning rod or spindle, and she touched it and played it. So she put on sleep for 100 years. And, you know, after 100 years, you know, a prince, you know, came from a far land, and, you know, they were all, he came to the kingdom, and he found that, you know, the whole kingdom, you know, was sleeping, put in on a sleep, and he was amazed. But when he reached the palace and entered it, no one moved, so because everyone was asleep. And then he found that beautiful sleeping princess, and she gave her, he liked her very much, and he gave her a kiss, and, you know, she woke up from that long sleep, according to the fairies, you know, wish or expectation. And then the prince, you know, married this princess, and they lived happily. Okay, you read the story yourselves and then you find more details. This is just very quick and short brief. Here we talk about the Sleeping Beauty. Don't pay attention to the names, as I said before, put you in French or in German, okay? These are just as references for you to know, but they are not important for the exam, okay? Okay, Sleeping Beauty is also called the beauty sleeping in the wood. This is another name of Sleeping Beauty. The beauty sleeping in the wood. Of course, the writer is Charles Perrault. Of course, you have to know this and remember, names of writers or collectors or compilers of stories assigned for you this semester, you have to know. So you have to remember names of every story that you read and some brief background about each writer. So here it was written by Charles Perrault, and then by brothers Grimm. Okay. Brothers Grimm is a very important name. We'll come to them later. We had them in the previous lecture. A classic fairy tale involving a beautiful princess. This is our story. Enchantment of Sleep and a handsome prince. It was written originally a literary tale. It was first published by Charles Perrault in his history. This is French, okay? So you don't need to worry about it. So, written as an original literary tale, it was first published by Charles Perrault in his book or his text, in his book. The author information, who was Charles Perrault, original, you read this and you have to remember this biography about Charles Perrault as a French writer. Okay, you read it and remember it for the exam. Now, what is the moral of Sleeping Beauty, and what is the theme beyond of Sleeping Beauty? There are many, moral lessons that we learn from the Sleeping Beauty. The moral of the Sleeping Beauty might be that life and growing up presents unavoidable risks. Okay, this is of course important, but perhaps it has no moral. But the possible moral lesson that we learn, that beauty might be that the moral of beauty might be life and growing up presents unavailable risks. This is the moral lesson. Life and growing up presents unavoidable risk. Sleeping Beauty is a fairy tale, not a fable. Why? Because fables were meant to be instructive and provide moral guidance. And Sleeping Beauty doesn't do this. What is the moral of Sleeping Beauty? Love and goodness conquer all. This is also another theme, another moral lesson that we learn. The first one is life and growing up presents unavoidable risk. Another moral theme that we may learn, love and goodness, okay, conquer all. Defeat all. What is the setting of the story? The setting of the Sleeping Beauty is the far north. Okay, is in a far away land. In a far away land. Now, who is the villain in Sleeping Beauty? This is also an important question you always need to remember, because always we have to remember about characters. The protagonist, the good guy, a he or a she character, and the villain, the antagonist. Okay, the villain, the character who, he or she, that goes against the hero, against the protagonist. Now, who is the villain, the antagonist in the Sleeping Beauty? طبعا we have the wicked fairy who causes the baby princess in the villain in Sleeping Beauty. Okay, so the fairy tale, okay, who causes the baby princess to sleep is the villain. Who causes who causes sleeping for the baby. Okay, so it's the wicked fairy. It's the wicked fairy. Next story is another very famous story, is Snowdrop and Seven Little Dwarfs. And I think most, if not all of you, also know this story or have a good background about it, and it's very much seen, you know, in the in cartoons for children. Okay, you see it on TV almost every day or every week. It's and being, you know, offered or shown. So this Snowdrop and Seven Little Dwarfs here again talks about, you know, a little beautiful princess once upon a time, huh? Okay, then a little beautiful princess called Snowdrop. Okay, so this is her name. Okay, but this little princess had, you know, a cruel, a bad, and evil, you know, stepmother who was very jealous was very jealous of the princess, and every time she used to ask a magic mirror about, you know, who's prettier, who's more beautiful, okay, me or Snowdrop. So every time the mirror, you know, says that no, Snowdrop is more beautiful than you. Every time. So the queen, you know, gets very angry when she hears that from the mirror, and she becomes more, you know, wicked, and she decides to get rid of by any means, or to kill the princess. So she sent, you know, the little princess with the huntsman to the woods to get rid of her, to kill her. But the huntsman, you know, did not do that. He was a nice person, and, you know, he left, you know, Snowdrop to wander, to walk all around in the woods by herself. And then by chance she came into a little, you know, cottage or hut, and she it was for, you know, these seven dwarfs. When she got into that cottage, she put everything in order, and she prepared the meals and cleaned the place. And when these dwarfs came, they were very happy to see that beautiful, you know, little princess in their home, in their cottage. And, you know, they lived together for some time. And, you know, for 3 times, you know, the wicked queen tried to kill the little princess, the little beautiful princess, because she knew, because when, after some time, you know, when the huntsman came back from the woods and she thought that he killed her, she asked the mirror. Then the mirror again gave the same answer, and the mirror says, no, the little Snowdrop is more beautiful than you. So the queen knows that Snowdrop is still alive, so she went into the woods, and, you know, she found Snowdrop, and she tried to deceive her 3 times and to kill her. And last time, last attempt, she gave her a poison, you know, apple, and she ate it, and she again, almost, let's say, died or put on a sleep. And, you know, when she ate that poisoned, you know, apple, the dwarves thought that she died, and they put her in a coffin, glass coffin, and they wanted to bury her, but on the way, you know, a prince, you know, saw the dwarves, you know, with this little beautiful princess, and he begged them to give her to him, to give the princess to him. And you know, they of course felt sorry for the prince, and they gave the dead princess or Snowdrop to the prince. And while his men, the prince's men, carrying the Snowdrop, they just, you know, stumbled. You know, they were about to fall down, and then she was, you know, shocked, and then her, you know, the apple, you know, came out of her throat, and then she was back to life. And the prince was so happy, and he married the princess, and they lived happily, and everyone was happy. So it's just like other stories for children. They end happily with, and they end, you know, with everyone happy and living a happy life at the end of each story. That is true, almost true, in every story that you read for children. Okay. Again, here for Snowdrop, you also please have to remember, you know, to discuss how to find the themes for this story. And then here we have to, if you consider discussing characters, setting, they are almost the same of the other stories. They are almost the same. Even sometimes, you know, the theme, because, you know, stories for children, almost all have common themes. The themes are being repeated almost in every story. So don't forget to check for figures of speech if there are any in this story. Our last story here, again, just similar to the previous ones, the Goose Girl here. As you see also against ours, there was once an old queen. There was once. Not specific in time and not specific in names of people. So here almost very much similar to other stories talking about, you know, a beautiful princess who was about to leave her country to get married from a prince in a different country. And, you know, her father and her mother, I mean the king and the queen, prepared her to go, you know, to her you know, bridegroom in another country, and they sent with her a woman, sort of a servant, you know, a waiting woman or a servant. And on the way to the other country, to the bridegroom's country, this wicked lady, who was a waiting woman, our servant, thought of just, you know, taking the place of the princess. And, you know, she took her pretty dress, and, you know, took her nice and, you know, beautiful horse, and, you know, she made her just look like a servant. And she threatened her by that this servant would kill the princess if she says anything about, you know, about what, you know, she had done to the princess. So when they got to the servant on the beautiful horse, and the little princess on a worthless type of horse, a type of horse that fits, you know, servants. When they got to the country, to the bridegroom's country, so the servant or the waiting woman, you know, acted as a princess and as a bride, and the prince thought that this servant was his bride, and you know, the real bride, the princess, was thought to be the servant. So the servant, who's thought to be a princess, asked the king to you know, to give this little princess, the real princess, something to do in the palace, and the princess, I mean the king, sent her to attend the geese with, you know, with a young man, and she worked with that young man, you know, to look after the geese. But you know, when she was with this young boy, you know, she showed her, I mean, he saw her beautiful long, you know, hair, and her way of saying, you know, some kind of poetry, and you know, that young man, you know, was very pleased, you know, of that, you know, little beautiful princess, and he thought he should tell the king about, you know, what he saw. So when he went back to the palace, he told the king about, you know, what he saw from that beautiful princess, and the king, you know, decided to go and peep, or just hide, you know, somewhere and watch the princess from a distance. And then after what he saw, you know, as being told by the young man, the king, you know, asked the beautiful princess, this little beautiful princess, to come to tell, you know, her story. But she said, sorry, I can't. She said, sorry, I can't tell you because it's a secret and it's a sort of an oath. So the king asked, okay, no need to talk to me directly, okay, just, you know, go away and speak to that, you know, stove, whatever it is, you know. And then the king, you know, was somewhere around hiding, and then he heard the whole story, and then he called that, you know, wicked woman servant, and you know, they were, you know, in the eating in the sitting room, or in the dining room, and they were eating. The king put a riddle while they were gathering, the king, the queen, the prince, and the servant, who was acting as a queen, and then the real princess, the little beautiful queen. And you know, he put a riddle, sort of a puzzle, to the waiting woman, to the servant, and he said, what does a person deserve that deceives his master? Then this waiting woman, the servant, said, he must be put into a barrel and dragged along by 2 white horses till he is dead. So as if she is just punishing here, giving the punishment that she deserves. So the king says, that is your doom, okay, that's what you deserve, okay, that's what you really, that is what should be done for you, and the judgment shall be carried out. So you should be put in a barrel, and you know, along with 2 white horses till you die. Okay, and then the prince was very happy to see that, you know, this beautiful princess is his real wife, and they all lived happily. The Goose Girl, as you see, is originally a German fairy tale collected by brothers Grimm. Okay, again, don't forget this name, Brothers Grimm. Since the 2nd edition, published in 1819, the Goose Girl had been recorded as a tale number. Okay, in this. Okay, and remember, please, now the Goose Girl was called, you know, the goose girl because she worked with this young man, okay, in the palace, who was attending, who was taking care, who was looking after the geese in the palace. Okay, it was first published. This goose girl was first published in 1815 as okay, whatever. Okay, again, German names, French names, our titles are not important for you. It was translated into English by Margaret Hunt in 1884. Andrew Lang included it in, okay, another writer who sort of a collector and compiler of fairies for children. Fairy tales often share, here, this is important, okay, fairy tales often share common characteristics, the use of the number 3, magical elements, transformations, misleading appearances, and the conquest of good over evil. Okay, this is important here. As you know, common characteristics in almost all fairy tales, that is also يعني that also goes to اللي هو stories written for children. Okay, they share common characteristics, اللي هو the use of number 3 of the number 3, magical elements, okay, transformations, okay, يعني changing from one form to another, from one shape to another, from one creature to another, misleading appearances, and the conquest of good over evil. Okay. Additionally, the hero, besides the other characteristics, the hero or heroine is often infallible. Okay, infallible. The hero or heroine always, wins at the end. Which elements did Shannon Hale decide to incorporate into the goose girl here as a question here for discussion? Okay, what elements do you find in this story, the goose girl? Which ones did she omit among these elements? Which ones Shannon Hale, the writer of the goose girl, used, and which ones she did not use, and which ones she did not use, she omitted? Why do you think so? Okay, this is when a question is of this type, why do you think so? This is just an open-ended question. It's just for you to think about and give your opinion. But of course, it will not be important for the exam. Okay, there will not be a question that asks you about what do you think of so and so, because as you know, our questions in the final exam will be all multiple choice questions. Okay, one of the major themes. Okay, here this is also important. One of the major themes of the goose girl is what? Accepting each other differences. Okay, this is it. The main theme, or one of the main themes, is accepting each other's differences. Another theme is discrimination. Discrimination. That's being against discrimination. Okay. One major theme, another, talk about themes here. We have different themes. One of the major themes in the goose girl is that of the art of communication. Some people are labeled with the gift of people speaking, while Annie has the gift of speaking to other things, including animals and the wind. One of the most important themes in the goose girl is that of self-discovery through the character of Annie. Because of the goose girl is a fairy tale, there must be a villain. Okay, there must be a villain. Now, however, in the story there are two. Okay, in the story or in this story. Okay, but let's talk about the main villain or antagonist in the Goose Girl, which is what? Okay, اللي هو the waiting woman, the servant, the waiting woman, the servant. Okay. Okay. That's all for today. Next time we meet in lecture 10, and we also discuss another, short story. Please, if there are questions about what we have just discussed, please let me know. Contact with me through my email. You are most welcome. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you very much, and see you soon. Assalamu alaikum.